Hi, I'm Abby, I have a lot of records, and this is Modern Classics Month, Week 4. So welcome back, or welcome if this is your first time here. This is the fourth and final installment of Mod Month, the mini-series where I showcase modern classic albums the whole month of May. Stuff released in the last 20-ish years that I think deserves to be showcased alongside this channel's main fare. Missed out this year? Don't worry, I put all my modern classic reviews in one playlist for your binging pleasure. And if 30-minute episodes aren't your thing, don't worry, I make 60-second versions of all of my videos posted here on my channel, over on my Instagram, as well as TikTok. The final installment of Mod Month 2024 shares the spotlight with the premiere of my newest venture, unveiling the legends, dolls of the 60s and 70s, or simply the Dolls podcast. It's all about legendary actresses, activists, musicians, and fashion icons whom myself and my co-host Emma Rosa Katarina are continually inspired by. After you're done here, you should mosey on down to wherever you stream your podcast to catch our pilot episode, paying tribute to the beautiful and brilliant Sharon Tate. Thank you so much to Emma for writing us a beautiful first episode, and we hope you enjoy the Dolls podcast. For the last episode of Mod Month, I like to showcase an album released within the past year by a group I think we should really keep our eye on because they're on track for modern classic status. Last year's pick was Always Blue Rev. This album is aging splendidly. All of the songs I wasn't crazy about back then, I love now. It has turned into a no-skip record. As for this year, I literally had to flip a coin on whether I was gonna feature Chapel Rowan or these guys. These guys won. Your final album of Modern Classics Month 2024 is The Lemon Twigs, A Dream Is All We Know. Congrats to those who guessed this one. Remember, if you want to play along, all you gotta do is check out my community tab. That's where I post my hints to what album I'll be covering next. I host polls, I make announcements when I'm places that aren't here, like the podcast. You can find all of that on my channel. If you're bummed I didn't cover Chapel, don't worry about it. At this point, she's practically a shoo-in for Mod Month 2025. Plus, I'd need at least a month to style that wig. Anyway, let's take the plastic off. Since this is a vinyl-centric channel, I always start my videos off by showcasing what pressing I have. It features plenty of quirky photography by the guy's go-to, Ava Chambers. If you look closely on the front cover by, I think that's Brian's head, it's even harder to tell them apart when one of them is upside down. There's a carton of cream hurtling through the air about to hit the floor. I feel like there's a story behind this carton and I want to know it. This pressing comes with a 7-inch flexi disc of bonus track gifts, a sticker, a poster, which will be B-roll Abby's responsibility to fold out. AD Prime does not have time for that shit. A totally goofy printed inner sleeve with all the lyrics, pink marbled vinyl, and a total surprise, a signed insert. Aww. All in all, this packaging shows off the guys' sense of humor and their appreciation for physical media. A Dream Is All We Know features the Lemon Twigs, consisting of the brothers Daddario, Brian and Michael, on pretty much everything. Guitar, bass, drums, backing vocals, principal songwriters, the whole lot. Brian plays all the keys and horns and contributes mandolin to I Should Have Known Right From the Start, while Michael is credited on the engineering team. Special guests include a string ensemble consisting of Otis Harriel, Yuri Kai, Rachel Martinez, and Doug Mackes. Former touring member of the Lemon Twigs, Daryl Johns, plays double bass on Ember Days, and Sean Oh No Lennon drops in to play bass on and co-produce In the Eyes of the Girl. A Dream Is All We Know was co-produced and mixed by Brian and Michael Daddario. Roll transition. Before Before I jump into this review, I want to give a crash course on the Lemon Twigs. I think their early life explains a lot of why their music sounds the way it does. So for context, my parents had me when they were around age 30. They are both firmly Gen Xers. I'm about a year younger than Brian. My sister is close to Michael's age. Their dad saw the Beatles on The Ed Sullivan Show, whereas I had to seek out 60s pop and rock music in my late teens and early 20s. Brian and Michael grew up with that stuff because that's what their parents grew up with. Both brothers had been steeped in the world of the performing arts since childhood. You know that really weird Little Mermaid Broadway musical? I'm not kidding. This is a real musical, and 10-year-old Brian was in that. He was Flounder. He's on the original soundtrack recording. Oh no, she's in love. And little brother Michael starred in a number of shows and made-for-TV movies in his youth, so the transition to the world of music was a no-brainer. They Hail Married their demos to Foxygen over the Twitter DMs, an audacious move only 2 high schoolers would pull, and it somehow worked. Jonathan Rado produced what would become the first Lemon Twigs album, Do Hollywood, which was picked up and released by 4AD. No one expected this thing to blow up the way it did, especially not 4AD. The media ate these kids up. They were the musical guests on CBS Saturday Morning, Conan. They played Glasto, Lollapalooza, Coachella. They opened for Arctic Monkeys on their Tranquility Base tour, which is how I first heard of them. They even played as guest musicians on a Foxygen record. In the middle of all of this, they put out their EP Brothers of Destruction. A lot of Lemon Twigs synopses seem to forget this part of their discography. I cannot forget it because it has what is objectively their best song. Light and Love is quite literally a perfect song. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. But the rumor mill did its thing and the industry plant title was thrown around. These guys were too young and too good to be this successful while sounding the way they do. Where have I seen this before? To combat this, the Twigs were like, oh hey, I know what we should do. We should release a concept album about a chimpanzee raised as a human who then pulls a Carrie and burns his high school down. Predictably, it sank like the Titanic. Brian since acknowledged that Go to School was a bit of a misstep, but ultimately concluded, quote, the album certainly showed we weren't in this for mere commercial reasons. Between Lemon Twigs albums 2 and 3, they didn't get nearly enough recognition for their work on one of the better pop albums of the past decade, Titanic Rising. Songs for the general public could have been their post-sophomore slump comeback, but the killed any and all promotional efforts. The guys were dropped from 4AD. If you ask me, the Lemon Twigs losing their record deal was the best thing to ever happen to them. Now they could keep it all in the family. Literally. They wrote, self-produced, and released last year's Everything Harmony on a truly indie label to marvelous effect. The lyrics navigate the complexity of love and loss with a folksier turn of their sound to match, inspired by Simon and Garfunkel.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
It was released to glowing reviews across the board. Elliot Roberts already did a video about why Everything Harmony is so good, so I won't cover that ground. Apparently my Let It Be video showed up in a chat of his or something. Very cool. And now, this. The album the Lemon Twigs have been working towards for the past decade. The track listing of A Dream Is All We Know goes as follows. Opening up side 1, we have My Golden Years, followed by They Don't Know How to Fall in Place, then Church Bells, next, A Dream Is All I Know, followed by Sweet Vibration, and side 1 closes with In the Eyes of the Girl. Opening up side 2, we have If You and I Are Not Wise, followed by How Can I Love Her More, then Ember Days, next, Peppermint Roses, then I Should Have Known Right from the Start, and the album closes with Rock On, subtitle over and over. Going in, the most prominent influences I picked up on were the Beach Boys, Boys and Todd Rundgren. When I hear closely packed harmonies that move a certain way, functioning like an especially efficient three-legged race, I think the Beach Boys. We have sunny, summery California sounds. As for Todd, he gets left out of the conversation altogether too much when we talk about 60s and 70s pop revivalist groups. We've been, or should have been, paying attention to that since Neon Indian sampled Is That Love on Deadbeat Summer. Oh my god, that was 15 years ago! Brian and Michael have a strong sensibility for Baroque pop overall. We'll get more into this later. The question I want to answer with this review is, how does all of this and more mix together without sounding like putting Granddad's iPod on shuffle? I didn't even know you could put this model on shuffle. How did he manage to do that? A Dream Is All We Know feels like Brian and Michael sitting around their record collections, pulling little bits and bobs from albums they've loved for years and spinning the threads into a new blanket to share with us. They aren't set in stone revivalists, nor are they trying to be. They just really dig the music. That revelation wrote this track-by-track breakdown. We are going to be doing things a little differently. On top of reviewing each individual song and considering its overall place in the album, where possible, I'll pair each song with an album I think was in Brian and Michael's stack of records. Before that, I want to make note of how good this album sounds. It was recorded 100% analog, and when you're listening on an analog format like vinyl, that makes a world of a difference. This fills a room with warmth the way few records from the 70s managed to, and that's when analog was commonplace. Michael flat out said digital recording was boring for him, and I quote, "Who wants to stare at a computer when they're doing something that's supposed to be fun?" Anyway, let's get into the record. My Golden Years was the breakout single of the package and makes for an energetic opener. It's the glossiest tune of the bunch, with super slick, jangly guitars, punchy drums, and prominent backing vocals. This is a very vocals-driven album, as opposed to the guitar-driven stuff I usually cover on this channel. It makes sense with the guy's 60s pop foundations. It's the most radio-oriented of the bunch as well, the ultimate earworm. The riff, verse, melody, and quirky B section have all been stuck in my head for like a week. But the guys put a little patina on this very shiny bass through the subject matter. This is an anxious song about worrying you're a background character in your own life or that you've wasted your potential. The guys wrote from experience. They first hit their stride while still in high school, then drifted for a few years before finding their footing again. Transitioning from your teenage years into adulthood is confusing enough, let alone being a working musician on top of that. Themes of coming of age and inner conflict, musical complexity with a taste for classicism. Fans of Pet Sounds will dig this one. They Don't Know How to Fall in Place introduces the Todd sound. When I hear this keyboard sound, Todd is the first one I think of. This is a song about not fitting in as a kid, then finding someone and happily not fitting in with them. The la la la's are so cheery and loose, they are delirious. Church Bells is the weakest song on the album. As we move through the rest of this record, you'll notice how seamlessly the Lemon Twigs mesh one sound with a seemingly incongruous other. Think of green and red, right? They're complementary colors, but they feel a little wrong next to each other. A Dream Is All We Know is riddled with seamless transitions from green to red. Unless you really think about it, you don't bat an eye. With Church Bells, the patches don't ever quite come together. It's green and red stripes. Nevertheless, those stripes remind me of Magical Mystery Tour, both Paul's Granny songs and the Disney string swells on I Am the Walrus. The pseudo-title track kicks off with theremin and rubbery globular synths. Brian and Michael have a lot of fun with different textures on this album, which I suppose you can do when you play every instrument under the sun. The title track always holds a certain level of importance on a record. The artist says, "This is the song that sums up how I felt writing everything else." And from the lyrics, the guys felt like they didn't have much to offer. A dream is all I know, it's all I've got to show for my being here. All I know how to be is myself, and I don't know if people are gonna accept that. On the micro level of the relationship Brian sings about, and the macro of the greater world around him, he felt a profound disconnect, maybe even dissociation. Quote, "It was written when I was feeling a strong sense of unreality in my kitchen. Unfortunately, unreality in my kitchen didn't have much of a ring to it. So we had to go with A Dream Is All We Know. I beg to differ, Brian. Unreality in My Kitchen is a banger title. I wouldn't pair this song so much with Todd as I would other acts he's influenced. Neon Indian, maybe a 2011 Tame Impala. That's because if you're measuring this album by how successfully the Lemon Twigs transformed the old into something completely new, this track would come out on top. It's totally unique to the Lemon Twigs, as the Neon Indian sound and Tame Impala sound were totally original to them when they first came on the scene. Not gonna lie, when I saw the track title Sweet Vibration, I got worried. I thought, oh no, this is gonna go so far in the psychedelic Beach Boys territory that it gets derivative. Thankfully, I was wrong. This is the Baroque pop moment on the record that Pretty Ballerina or Revolver enjoyers will like. Shh. Didn't Giggins make the exact same connections? This just in, all blondes share the same lone brain cell and free will is an illusion. VMECU Fantano crossover when? The piano and string ensemble fuse together to get a real concert hall pop sound. But here's the thing, this sound was so specific to the left bank that it sticks out a little bit.
In the eyes of the world.
In the Eyes of the Girl pretty blatantly harkens back to one of my personal favorite Beach Boys tunes, Surfer Girl. To the point at which on my second listen through of A Dream Is All We Know, I had to take the break between sides to put on Surfer Girl and get a little misty-eyed. Both songs give me the sniffles. They're unabashedly romantic early to mid-60s prom songs. The vocals sweep and sway the same way the slow dance time, arpeggiating guitar, and walking bass line are appropriately saccharine. But this was the only time I felt the urge to compare A Dream Is All We Know track to something else mid-listen. The rest of my connections come from my personal knowledge and record collection, not from the music itself, if that makes any sense. Though I'm not familiar with how Sean Ono Lennon produces, I can tell someone else was sitting behind the board for this. There's more space in between the instruments and a tight delay on the drums. I've made a point of praising the Beach Boys manner of Brian and Michael's harmonies. That is not easy to arrange. You have to have one hell of an ear to do that, let alone perform it in the booth, just two of you. But the Lemon Twigs are not one-trick ponies. If You and I Are Not Wise instead takes Route 170 from LA out to Laurel Canyon. The jangly electric guitar paired with chamber folk backing vocals harkens back to Buffalo Springfield or the Byrds. And we have steel guitar buried in there too, so we're not just birdsing, we are Graham Parsons era Sweetheart of the Rodeo birdsing. This song is about the uncomfortable silence as you wait to reap the rewards from what you sow. It's getting so very empty in the garden where nothing grows. There's a recurring theme of inadequacy, questioning your place in the world, maybe even that your expiration date is coming up. A voice whispers in my ear, you are less than you were last year. This is the middle of a really great 3-song run on this record, concluding with How Can I Love Her More? How Can I Love Love Her More is a frankly adorable song about having a hardworking and capable girl and loving her even more for it. We have enough independent woman anthems. We need more for the boyfriends of the independent women who genuinely like having an independent woman. It's Miss Independent by Neo, Independent by Webby, and this. Did I just out myself as growing up in the 2000s with those first two? I think I did. If Gwen Stefani didn't teach you how to spell bananas and Webby didn't teach you how to spell independent, then I don't want to hear it. There were some clunkers of lyrics on previous tunes. See trying to find a rhyme and settling on you are less than you were last year. There are no clunkers here. Each phrase fits with each other and with the music, and I love the twist that that line, how can I love her more, puts on a chorus that would otherwise read as anxious. How openly lovey-dovey this is reminds me of an up-tempo Never My Love by The Association. Giggins mentioned The Association too! Ember Days has a relaxed, breezy atmosphere with the rim clicks on the drums and softly plucked nylon string guitar. It's such a breath of fresh air that I didn't know I needed. I'll be real, I didn't think of how done up the rest of the record is by virtue of its influences until Ember Days. Done up isn't a bad thing in this case. It's obvious a lot of love was poured into this record. It isn't 1968. A pop record no longer needs to be so sonically cohesive to the degree at which it's homogenous to read as cohesive. Though Ember Days was clearly written during the Everything Harmony sessions, it's a welcome change of pace on a project like this. If you are somehow lucky enough to have the Millenniums LP on your shelves, give Ember Days a try. Captured tracks, if you're seeing this,
Ooh, you should make a red and white pinwheel variant. It goes with peppermint roses. Woo!
Again, with tracks taking me by surprise, I hear peppermint roses and I think bubblegum pop, say Strawberry Alarm Clock. I do not envision a witchy late 60s vibe. At first I thought Wicked Annabella, then came to my senses and remembered Butcher's Tale. The way the chords modulate through the phrase, I lost the one who's near to me, my mind is dead, is theatrical and moody. It effortlessly transitions from the playful electronic keys and bright bursts of energy and back again in an almost glam manner. This record consistently subverts my expectations at every turn, yet fulfills every hidden need. What is happening here? If you like sounds like this and twists and turns like that, then you probably like Odyssey and Oracle and Village Green. Then we have a James Taylor brand of country rock on I Should Have Known Right from the Start. Until it does a Greek folk thing with the mandolin that I haven't heard since Girl.
You should have slain the burning heart.
Over top of typically Lemon Twigs glossiness, this should not work. This barely works. It's unabashedly quirky, but the brothers pull it off with ease. I mean, you have to be comfortable with a certain level of whimsy if you have these haircuts in our year of the Lord 2024. We go full glam with Rock On over and over. This song was written as a straight pop tune, but they thought it was too soft, so they plugged their guitars in and gave it the Mark Bolan edge. This is the de facto set closer of this touring cycle, I am sure. Even the title screams Mark Bolan with tight silver pants and glitter on his face. Sadly, we do not have Mickey Finn on the bongos. That's the only way this song can be improved upon. This is a really cool closer. It's unconventional given how soft and flowery the rest of the record sounds. We traveled through time, all over time, on A Dream Is All We Know, through the 60s and the 70s, into the 2010s, and touching down on glam rock in 71, which, tight pants aside, has its roots as a revivalist moment in rock and roll. Those cats were invoking a little bit of James Brown and a whole lot of Chuck Berry. If you think about that, Rock On is kind kinda the perfect closer. A nod to the crate diggers who came before. You know, listening through this album, I got a little mad on the Lemon Twigs' behalf. They seem perfectly content with not being the biggest band in the world and have made peace with the early industry plant accusations. I have not. First of all, fans like myself are proof that Zoomers love the 60s and the 70s. The looks, the sounds, everything. I'm not a musician. I'm barely a critic. These guys are musicians. They have the know-how to not just invoke this time, not just embody it, but transform a ridiculous array of sounds into something totally new. If you engage with their work, you'll realize it's no wonder they saw such success so young. They grew up steeped in music, so they have the training to pull off something so ambitious. You can work hard, you can be hella talented, you can do all the right things. You could even buy yourself into the industry. But the Lemon Twigs were instilled with something you can't buy, and that's authenticity. That's what makes A Dream Is All We Know so special in our year of the Lord 2024, when you can self-produce music from your bedroom and self-release via DistroKid. We are being inundated with more content than ever. You have to go hunting for the authentic stuff. Here it is. An ambitious, sprawling project across just 34 minutes, yet firmly rooted to the ground via its themes. Themes that Zoomers like myself, all in the workforce by now, are living, feeling, and writing about every day. You can write a record about the authentic lived experience of a Zoomer, easy, but we're anxious as hell, and it's hard to make that sound joyful. With A Dream Is All We Know, the Lemon Twigs did it. That's how you make a modern classic. My personal favorites off this one are My Golden Years, In the Eyes of the Girl, If You and I Are Not Wise, How Can I Love Her More, and Ember Days. Remember, if you want to keep up with all of my favorites from all of the Vinyl Mondays and all the mod months, I have a Spotify playlist linked in my description. I update it every week. And that's it! That is Modern Classics Month 2024. 3 albums I think we'll be talking about for decades to come, and one we should keep our eye on. I truly think it's only up from here for the Lemon Twigs. What do you think of my picks this year? What do you think of this album? Leave a comment letting me know. I love hearing what you guys have to say about albums that I love. And remember, despite what some guy on the internet has to say, your opinion matters. If you like what I do here, you should like this video and subscribe to my channel. I post new episodes of Vinyl Monday every Monday morning at 11, except for next week. After a month of posting double the videos every week and launching a podcast, I'm taking a week off. And the Vinyl Monday 100th episode special is on the horizon, and I need time to write that. Vinyl Monday will return Monday, June 10th for episode 99. In that time, you should head on over to the pilot episode of Unveiling the Legends Dolls of the 60s and 70s, available wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you over there. Bye!